The stars shimmered against the black void as the massive Kralian warship cut through space. On the command deck, Admiral Zralk stood with his 4 arms clasped behind his back. His scaled skin reflected the blue glow of the ship's monitors. "Another system to add to our empire," Zralk said to his second-in-command. "What primitive species occupy the 3rd planet?" Officer Kraft pulled up the data on his screen. "They call themselves humans. They have only reached their own moon and sent basic probes to nearby planets. Their technology is primitive." Zralk made a dismissive gesture. "Like all the others, prepare the standard first contact protocol." Far away on Earth, in a quiet NASA facility, an alarm blared. Jane Oakes jumped from her chair and stared at the monitor. The readings couldn't be right. She checked them again, then reached for her phone with shaking hands. "Director, you need to see this. Something very large and very fast just entered our solar system." Within hours, leaders from around the world gathered in emergency meetings. At the Pentagon, Dr. Olivia Martinez hurried down a hallway alongside Captain John Miller. "I don't care what the president said," Miller argued. "If these are aliens, we need to prepare for the worst." "We don't know they're hostile," Martinez countered. She clutched her tablet showing the strange signal patterns. "First contact should be peaceful." Miller shook his head. 17 civilizations. That's how many the Chinese astronomers believe these visitors have encountered based on the signal patterns. And none of those civilizations are still sending signals. In the Situation Room, screens showed military units mobilizing worldwide. General Peter Russell addressed the room. "We have 24 hours before they reach Earth orbit. Every nuclear missile is on standby. Air forces are on high alert." Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "General, we've made progress decoding their transmissions. They're broadcasting the same message on repeat. It appears to be an ultimatum." The room fell silent. 3 hours later, the Kralian scout ship entered Earth orbit. Its sleek design gleamed in the sunlight as it positioned itself over the Pacific Ocean. Smaller craft detached from its hull. In San Diego, people pointed at the sky as one of the alien craft descended toward the naval base. Military helicopters circled it but kept their distance. The craft landed in an empty field. Armed soldiers formed a perimeter while Dr. Martinez and a small team approached with communications equipment. The craft's door slid open, revealing 3 tall, 4-armed beings with scaled skin in metallic suits. The middle one stepped forward, activating a device on its wrist. Martinez's translation software worked frantically to decode the alien language. The alien spoke, and after a delay, her tablet displayed the translation. "We are the Kralian Empire. We have claimed this system for our expansion. Your species has 2 Earth rotations to surrender control. Resistance has proven futile for all other species we have encountered." Martinez looked up at the alien's 4 yellow eyes. "We wish to establish peaceful relations. Earth has many resources we could share." The alien's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "Sharing is inefficient. Your species will serve or be removed." Captain Miller stepped forward. "And if we refuse both options?" The alien seemed surprised by the question. After a pause, it replied, "No species has refused. The consequences would be extinction." As they returned to their vehicle, Miller whispered to Martinez, "Did you notice? They've never faced resistance. They expect us to give up without a fight." Martinez nodded. "That might be our only advantage." Back at the Pentagon, General Russell reviewed the first contact report. "They've given us 48 hours. Get me the president." In orbit, Admiral Zralk received the scout team's report. Another simple conquest. He told his officers, "Begin preparations for planetary pacification." Officer Kraft studied the humans' response data. "Admiral, their biological readings during the meeting were unusual. Their heart rates increased, but they showed no signs of submission. Most species exhibit fear differently." Zralk waved away the concern. "They will learn fear, like all the others." He didn't know that humans were already planning their resistance, and that for the first time in centuries, the Kralian Empire would face an enemy unlike any other they had conquered before. The United Nations building buzzed with tense energy as world leaders filled the emergency session. Armed guards stood at every door. Screens around the room showed the Kralian ships hovering in Earth's orbit. "We have less than 30 hours to respond," said the Secretary General. "Each nation must vote. Do we surrender or fight?" The Chinese president stood. "Their technology is far beyond ours. Surrender may be our only option for survival." "Surrender means slavery," the American president countered. "We've never bowed to tyrants before." At the back of the room, Major Susan Kelly watched with tight lips. As a special operations commander, she had been brought to advise military options. Next to her stood Frank Howard, a mining engineer with explosive expertise. "They've never faced humans before," Kelly whispered to Howard. "That's their weakness." Howard nodded. "Every ship has a weak point, even theirs." While the debate raged, Kelly slipped out and headed to a secure room where Dr. Lisa Powell waited with her team. Powell was a biotechnologist who had been studying the aliens' biological samples collected from their landing site. "What have you found?" Kelly asked. Powell pointed to her microscope. "Their cellular structure is different from ours. They evolved in a high-gravity environment. Earth must feel light to them, but they seem sensitive to our oxygen levels." Alan Wright, a communications expert, looked up from his computer. "I've been analyzing their transmission patterns. There are gaps in their security protocols. Their confidence has made them careless." Kelly smiled slightly. "Good. We need every advantage." She spread out a map on the table. "I have approval for a special operation. We're going to board their scout ship." Howard whistled. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Kelly said. "But if we can gather intelligence or sabotage their systems, it gives Earth a fighting chance." While Kelly's team prepared, the Kralians grew impatient. On the command ship, Admiral Zrelk paced the deck. "These humans delay. No species has taken so long to submit," he told Officer Krath. "Perhaps they are organizing their surrender," Krath suggested. Zrelk's yellow eyes narrowed. "Or preparing resistance. Send a message they understand." Hours later, a small uninhabited island in the Pacific vanished in a flash of energy. The blast was seen from space, a demonstration of Kralian power. In the Pentagon Situation Room, military leaders watched the footage in shock. "The energy output is beyond anything we've ever seen," General Russell said, his face pale. Dr. Martinez studied the readings. "It's targeted annihilation technology. They can destroy any location with precision." But instead of causing panic, the attack united humanity. News channels around the world showed people gathering in streets, demanding resistance rather than surrender. In a hidden hangar, Kelly's team made final preparations. 6 soldiers checked weapons while Howard examined his specially designed explosives. "These should work on any power system," he explained to Kelly. "The trick will be getting them placed correctly." Wright adjusted his communication gear. "I've modified our systems to mimic their transmission frequencies. It should buy us some time before they detect us." Dr. Powell handed out injections. "This should help your bodies adapt to any environmental changes on their ship. It's our best guess based on their biology." Kelly addressed her team one last time. "We launch in 3 hours. This mission is likely one way. Earth is counting on us." In orbit, the Kralians continued preparations for conquest, unaware of the small team about to attempt the impossible. Officer Krath approached Admiral Zrelk with concern. "The humans have not responded to our demonstration. This is unusual behavior." Zrelk dismissed the concern. "They are primitive. Perhaps they need another lesson. Our scouts report their military forces are not surrendering weapons. Instead, they appear to be mobilizing." Krath insisted. For the first time, Zrelk felt a flicker of uncertainty. In 17 conquests, no species had reacted this way. The humans were supposed to be begging for mercy by now. "Increase security protocols," he ordered, "and prepare a second demonstration. This time, we will target one of their cities. Little did he know that humans did not respond to threats as other species did. For humans, threats only strengthened their resolve. The small human shuttle rose silently through the night sky. Inside, Major Kelly and her 5 team members checked their equipment one last time. They wore special suits designed to protect against unknown alien environments. "Remember," Kelly said, "our mission is to gather intelligence and plant Howard's devices. We get in, do the job, and get out." Howard patted his bag of explosives. "These babies will shut down their power systems long enough for Earth forces to strike." Wright studied his tablet. "I've located a blind spot in their sensor grid. We can approach from below." The shuttle pilot nodded. "Approaching target in 60 seconds. Above them, the massive Kralian scout ship hung in low orbit. It was smaller than the main fleet vessels, but still dwarfed anything humans had built. Its smooth surface showed few entry points. "There," Powell pointed. "That looks like a maintenance hatch." The shuttle slowed as it approached the alien ship. Using Wright's hacked codes, they triggered the external hatch to open. The team slipped inside just as a patrol of Kralian guards passed nearby. Inside, they found themselves in a narrow service tunnel. The gravity felt stronger than Earth's. "Careful," Powell whispered. "Their homeworld has 1.5 times Earth's gravity." Kelly nodded but noticed something strange. "They designed this ship for their gravity, but we're still moving fine. They probably think this would cripple other species." The team moved deeper into the ship. The air was thinner, but their suits compensated. They reached a junction where corridors branched in 3 directions. "Wright, Powell, head for their data center," Kelly ordered. "Howard and I will find the power core. The rest of you secure our exit path." As they split up, a group of Kralian crew members appeared suddenly around a corner. For a moment, both sides froze in surprise. Then the aliens reached for their weapons. Kelly moved faster than they expected. She tackled the first alien while Howard struck another with surprising force. The humans' quick reaction shocked the Kralians, who were used to other species being slowed by the ship's gravity. "These humans are stronger than the reports indicated." One Kralian gasped into a communicator before Kelly knocked him unconscious. "We've lost surprise," Kelly said. "Move fast." Howard and Kelly raced toward the power core. They found it guarded by 2 Kralians who immediately fired energy weapons at them. The humans dodged with reflexes that seemed impossible to the aliens. Howard planted his first explosive device on an auxiliary power line. 1 down, 3 to go. Meanwhile, Powell and Wright reached the data center. Wright connected his device to their systems and began downloading information. "Their fleet has conquered 17 systems," Wright whispered as data flowed. "But they've never encountered resistance like ours." Powell examined a biological sample station. "Look at this. They've been collecting DNA from species across the galaxy, including us now." She noticed something strange in the data. They're bioweapons that worked on other species. They wouldn't affect humans the same way. Our biology is different. An alarm blared through the ship. Admiral Zrok's voice came over the communication system. "Intruders detected. Human infiltrators. Capture them alive for study." Kelly's voice came through their comms. "Wright, Powell, do you have what we need?" "Yes," Wright replied. "And you won't believe this. Their ships have a critical design flaw. The main power relays can't handle sudden energy surges." "Perfect," Howard said as he placed his final explosive. "These are set to create exactly that kind of surge." As they regrouped at the exit point, they found their way blocked by a squad of armed Kralians. A fierce fight erupted. The aliens were shocked at the humans' strength and combat skills. "How are they moving so fast in our gravity?" one guard asked in confusion. "Humans evolved on a planet with varying gravitational pulls," Powell explained as she struck an alien with surprising force. "Our bodies adapt." They fought their way to the maintenance hatch. Wright sent the collected data to Earth before they escaped. From his command ship, Admiral Zrok watched the humans' shuttle escape. For the first time in his long career of conquests, he felt genuine concern. "These humans," he said to Officer Krath, "they are not like the others." Krath nodded. "Perhaps this conquest will not be as simple as we thought." The Pentagon war room buzzed with activity. Screens showed the Corellian fleet approaching Earth. General Russell stood at the center table where Kelly's team had just finished their report. "So their ships have this weakness?" he asked, pointing to the diagrams Howard had created. Howard nodded. "Yes, sir. Their power systems can't handle sudden energy spikes. My explosives should create exactly that kind of surge." Wright pulled up the data he had stolen, and we now have their fleet positions and communication codes. Dr. Martinez studied the alien language files Wright had downloaded. Their communications suggest internal divisions. Not all Corellians support this conquest. General Russell turned to Dr. Powell. "What about these biological findings?" Powell displayed her analysis on the main screen. "They're bioweapons that devastated other species won't work the same way on humans. Our immune systems are different. I'm already working on countermeasures." For the first time since the crisis began, hope filled the room. "Get this information to all Earth Defense Forces," Russell ordered. "We have 48 hours before their main fleet arrives." Around the world, humans prepared for battle. In factories, workers rushed to modify weapons based on Howard's findings. Scientists worked day and night with Powell's team to develop defenses against Corellian technology. Kelly supervised combat training, teaching soldiers how to fight in the higher gravity they would face on alien ships. "They expect us to be weak," she told her troops. "Their overconfidence is our advantage." In space, Admiral Zrelk confronted the failure of his scout mission. The human infiltrators had stolen critical data and escaped. How did they move so easily in our gravity? He demanded of his science officer. "Their planet has varying gravitational fields," the officer explained. "Mountains, oceans, different elevations. Their bodies evolved to adapt quickly." Officer Krath approached with more concerning news. "Admiral, our spy drones show the humans are modifying their weapons. They are preparing to fight." Zrelk's four hands clenched in frustration. No species has ever prepared so effectively. "Send advance forces to test their defenses." 3 Corellian attack ships broke from the main fleet and accelerated toward Earth. They expected to easily overwhelm human forces. They were wrong. Earth's combined defense forces met them at the moon's orbit. Fighter jets modified with new shielding technology swarmed around the larger alien ships. Kelly commanded one squadron from her fighter. "Remember your training. Target their power junctions." Howard had designed special missiles that created the energy surges he had discovered would overload Corellian systems. When they struck the first attack ship, its lights flickered and shields failed. "It's working," Kelly shouted into her comm. "All units, focus fire on Target 1." The lead Corellian ship exploded in a burst of blue energy. The other 2 ships tried to retreat, but Earth forces surrounded them. On his command ship, Admiral Zrelk watched in shock as the battle unfolded. One of his attack ships destroyed, the others damaged and retreating. "Impossible," he whispered. "They are just humans. Primitive beings who barely left their own planet." Officer Krath's voice was grim. "They learn quickly, Admiral, and they fight fiercely, like nothing we've encountered before." Zrelk studied the battle data. The humans had somehow discovered weaknesses in Corellian technology that no other species had found. They had adapted their weapons in days, not the years it should have taken. "We must accelerate our plans," he decided. "Bring the entire fleet to Earth now. We will crush them with overwhelming force before they can adapt further." But as the Corellian main fleet approached, they detected something unexpected. The humans had positioned defense platforms throughout their solar system. They had united as a planet in ways that shocked the Corellians. In the Pentagon, General Russell received news of the retreating alien ships. The room erupted in cheers. "This is just the beginning," Kelly reminded them. "The main fleet is still coming." But for the first time, they knew the aliens could be beaten. Humans had done what 17 other species could not, successfully fought back against the Corellian Empire. The sky above Earth filled with Corellian warships. Like dark clouds, they blocked the sun in many places. People on the ground looked up in fear, but also with determination. Admiral Zrelk stood on his command ship's bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. "Begin standard attack formation," he ordered. "Target their military bases first, then government centers." The Corellian fleet spread out, taking positions around the planet. This formation had worked perfectly in 17 previous conquests. But Earth was different. "Admiral," Officer Krath called out with alarm. "The humans are not deploying as expected. Their ships are moving in unusual patterns. Instead of grouping their forces to protect key locations, Earth ships scattered in small groups. Some hid behind the moon. Others took positions near asteroids and space debris. In her fighter, Major Kelly led a squadron hidden in Earth's shadow. "Remember your training," she told her pilots. "Let them commit to their formation before we strike." General Russell watched from the Pentagon Command Center. "Wait for it," he told his officers. "Let them think we're disorganized." The Corellian ships moved into final attack positions. Admiral Zrelk gave the order to begin the first wave of attacks. "Fire on primary targets," he commanded. Corellian energy weapons charge, aimed at military bases below. But just as they prepared to fire, Howard's plan sprang into action. Kelly's fighters burst from Earth's shadow. "Now," she shouted. All around the planet, hidden human ships launched simultaneously. They didn't attack the warships directly. Instead, they targeted the specific power junctions Howard had identified. Special missiles struck the Corellian ships, causing power surges through their systems. Lights flickered on dozens of alien vessels. Some lost weapon control. Others lost shields. "What is happening?" Zrelk demanded as his own flagship shuddered. "They're targeting our power systems," a technician answered. "They know exactly where to strike." On Earth, Dr. Powell monitored the battle from her lab. When the Corellians launched biological weapons at Earth's atmosphere, she activated the countermeasures she had developed. "Release the defensive microbes," she ordered. Around the world, planes sprayed the special compounds Powell had created. They neutralized the alien bioweapons before they could spread. The Corellians had never faced such precise counterattacks. For the first time in centuries, they were forced to change tactics during battle. "Reconfigure attack pattern," Zrelk ordered. "Focus all firepower on their fighter groups." But the humans shifted tactics too. Kelly's squadron scattered, drawing Corellian fire away from Earth's main defense ships. "They adapt too quickly," Officer Krath warned. "This is unlike any species we fought." In the midst of the chaos, Kelly spotted an opportunity. The Corellian command ship had briefly lowered its shields to redirect power. "All units, focus on the command ship," she ordered. "This is our chance." Human fighters swarmed toward Zrelk's flagship. They launched everything they had at its exposed sections. The massive ship shuddered as explosions rippled across its hull. Inside, Admiral Zrelk grabbed a console to stay standing. "Return fire," he shouted. "Destroy those fighters." His ship launched defensive weapons, destroying several human fighters. Kelly's own ship took a hit, sending it spinning. "I'm hit," she reported, fighting to regain control. But still in the fight. The battle raged across Earth orbit. Human casualties mounted, but so did Corellian losses. 3 alien warships exploded as their power cores overloaded. Others retreated from the fight, damaged beyond repair. From the Pentagon, General Russell watched grimly. "We're hurting them, but taking heavy losses ourselves." Dr. Martinez studied enemy communications she was intercepting. "They're confused, General. Their command structure is breaking down. They've never had to adapt during battle before." On his damaged flagship, Admiral Zrelk faced a truth he had never considered. These humans might actually defeat them. "Regroup the fleet," he ordered. "We need a new approach." As Earth's first day of battle ended, both sides had suffered. But humanity had done what no other species had managed. They had fought the mighty Kralian Empire to a standstill. And they were just getting started. Dawn broke over a changed Earth. Smoke rose from cities where Kralian weapons had struck. But the planet still stood, and so did its people. In orbit, several Kralian ships broke formation and retreated to a safe distance. Their hulls showed damage from the night's battle. "They're regrouping," Wright told General Russell as they watched the tactical display. "Some ships are falling back beyond the moon." Russell nodded. "We hurt them. Maybe more than anyone ever has." Dr. Martinez entered the command center with new information. "Sir, I've been monitoring their communications. There's disagreement among their commanders. Some want to continue the attack. Others are questioning the wisdom of this invasion." For the first time, hope spread through the war room. Humans had proven they could fight back. On his damaged flagship, Admiral Zrelk faced growing doubts from his officers. "We've lost 7 warships," Officer Krath reported. 4 more are badly damaged. Our standard conquest protocols are failing." Another officer spoke up. "Admiral, some captains are suggesting we withdraw and reassess. The humans fight like no species we've encountered." Zrelk slammed his 4 fists on the command table. "We do not retreat. The Empire has never failed to conquer a world. Prepare a new attack wave." But privately, even Zrelk wondered if this conquest might be different. As the Kralians prepared their next attack, Kelly and Howard were brought before Admiral Zrelk. Their fighter had been disabled in the battle, and a Kralian ship had captured them. 4 armed guards escorted them onto the bridge. Kelly studied the alien commander, noting his ornate armor that signified his rank. "So," Zrelk said, looking at the humans with his 4 yellow eyes, "these are the creatures who dare resist the Empire." Howard stood tall despite his injuries. "We're just the beginning. Earth won't surrender." Zrelk circled them slowly. 17 species before you have fallen. All thought they could resist. All failed." Kelly met his gaze without fear. "Maybe you've never met the right species until now." Zrelk found himself fascinated by their defiance. "Why do you fight when you must know you will lose?" "Other species surrendered to save lives." "Humans don't work that way," Kelly explained. "Threaten us, and we fight harder." This concept seemed to confuse Zrelk. In his long career, he had never encountered such psychology. Meanwhile, Dr. Powell made a breakthrough in her lab. She had been studying Kralian communications and made a startling discovery. "General Russell," she called over the secure line, "the Kralians are running from something else. There are references in their communications to another threat in their home systems." Russell leaned forward. "They're not just conquerors. They're refugees." "In a way," Powell explained. "They take worlds to build their empire, but also because they're fleeing something they fear." This information changed everything. The Kralians weren't just invaders. They were desperate. Wright found a way to use this knowledge. "I can use their communication frequencies to broadcast false orders to their fleet." "Do it," Russell ordered. Across the Kralian fleet, captains received new orders that seemed to come from Zrelk himself. Some ships moved out of position. Others powered down weapons. Back on the flagship, Zrelk continued his interrogation of Kelly and Howard. "Your people develop weapons too quickly," he said. "How did you learn our weaknesses so fast?" Before they could answer, a junior officer burst onto the bridge. "Admiral, half the fleet is changing position without orders." Zrelk turned away from the humans. "What? Who authorized this?" In the confusion, Kelly caught Howard's eye. This was their chance. Howard had hidden a small explosive device in his booth that the aliens had missed. As chaos erupted on the bridge, Howard slipped the device to Kelly. She activated it and placed it under a nearby console when the guards weren't looking. "Something's happening," she whispered to Howard. "Our people are making their move." Outside, the battle had turned. Human forces, seeing the Kralian fleet in disarray, pressed their advantage. A key battle in the asteroid belt became a decisive human victory. The turning point had arrived. Chaos spread through the Corellian fleet like wildfire. Ship captains received conflicting orders. Some moved to attack positions while others retreated. The carefully planned invasion fell apart. On the flagship, Admiral Zrok struggled to regain control. All ships, disregard previous communications. Return to formation. He shouted into the command system. But the damage was done. Wright's false orders had created too much confusion. Kelly watched as Zrok's officers argued among themselves. Some openly questioned his leadership now. "Admiral," one officer said boldly, "perhaps these humans are not meant to be conquered. 17 successes may be enough for the Empire." "Silence," Zrok roared. "We do not retreat." In the distraction, Kelly nodded to Howard. The small explosive they had planted began to smoke under the console. Alarms blared as the bridge filled with thick fog. "Now," Kelly shouted. She knocked down one guard while Howard tackled another. They grabbed alien weapons and ran from the bridge. "Find them," Zrok ordered through the smoke. "Don't let them escape." Kelly and Howard raced through the alien ship's corridors. They had memorized the layout from Wright's data. "This way," Kelly said, leading them toward a communication center. "We need to contact Earth." They fought their way past more guards, surprising them with their strength and speed. The Corellians still underestimated what humans could do. In the communication room, Howard secured the door while Kelly accessed the alien systems. "General Russell," she called over the secure channel. "This is Kelly. We're inside the flagship, and it's in chaos. There's a rebellion brewing among the Corellians." Russell's voice came through with static. "Good work. Can you get to their main systems?" "Working on it," Kelly replied. Suddenly, the door burst open. But instead of guards, a female Corellian officer entered with several crew members. They didn't raise their weapons. "We wish to speak, not fight," the female said in broken English. "I am Commander Farrell. We no longer follow Zrok." Kelly kept her weapon ready. "Why should we trust you?" "Because," Vrel explained, "some of us have studied your species. We believe fighting you is wrong. You are different from others we conquered." Howard looked skeptical. "You just realized killing us is wrong." Vrel's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "My faction believes in cooperation, not conquest. Zrok's methods are old. They no longer serve our people, especially against humans who fight so fiercely." While Kelly negotiated with the rebel Corellians, Dr. Martins worked with Powell on Earth. They had discovered more about the aliens' history in the stolen data. The Corellians are running from something called the Void, Martins explained to General Russell. "It's consuming their home systems. They conquer worlds to establish new homes." Powell nodded. "They're desperate, not just power-hungry." Russell considered this information. "So they might be open to alliance rather than conquest if we offer help against this Void threat." Back on the flagship, Kelly contacted Earth again. "General, we have potential allies among the Corellians. Commander Vrel and her faction want to negotiate. Can they stop the attack?" Russell asked. Vrel stepped forward. "More ships join our faction every hour. Zrok loses control, but he still has loyal forces." Howard had been working on the ship's systems during this conversation. He turned to Kelly with urgent news. "I found something in their databanks. The Void they're running from. It's headed this way. That's why they needed Earth so badly." This changed everything. Kelly looked at Vrel. "Is this true? This Void is coming here?" Vrel's expression showed fear. "Yes, it consumes all life. We flee, but it follows. This is why Zrok is so desperate to take your world." Kelly made a quick decision. "We need to form an alliance. Humans and Corellians together might stand a chance against this new threat." As if to punctuate her words, the ship shuddered from a new attack. Admiral Zrok had gathered his loyal ships and was firing on the rebels. The final battle for Earth had begun. But now, some aliens fought alongside humans against their own kind. And in deep space, something dark and terrible was moving toward their solar system. Space around Earth lit up with energy blasts as Zrok's loyal ships battled the rebels. Human forces joined with Vrel's ships, creating an unusual alliance. On Earth, General Russell addressed world leaders on a secure video call. "We face two threats now," he explained. "Admiral Zrok's forces and this void entity that follows the Kralians. Commander Vrel has shared data about both." The American president looked concerned. "Can we trust these rebel aliens?" "Major Kelly believes we can," Russell replied. "And right now, we need allies." The decision was made. Earth would officially ally with the Kralian rebels against Zrok and prepare for the greater threat to come. On Vrel's command ship, Kelly, Howard, and the rebel commander planned their attack on Zrok's flagship. "His shields are strongest here and here," Vrel said, pointing to a holographic display. "But there is a weakness at the rear power junction." Howard studied the design. "That's where my explosives will do the most damage." Kelly looked at the battle raging outside. "We need to end this quickly. The longer we fight each other, the less time we have to prepare for the void." Their combined fleet moved into position. Human fighters flew alongside Kralian ships in formations that confused Zrok's forces. "They fight together." Zrok raged on his bridge. "Impossible." Officer Krath, still loyal to Zrok, looked troubled. "Admiral, more of our ships join the rebels every hour. Perhaps we should." "We never retreat." Zrok cut him off. "The Empire has conquered every world it targeted for 18 cycles. I will not be the first admiral to fail." But as he spoke, a combined force of human and rebel ships broke through his defenses. Kelly led the assault team that boarded Zrok's flagship. Human soldiers fought alongside 4 armed Kralians, their different fighting styles complementing each other perfectly. They fought their way to the bridge where Admiral Zrok made his last stand. "You betray your own kind," he snarled at Vrel. "We save our kind," she replied. "The old ways no longer work. These humans show us a new path." Zrok looked at Kelly with his 4 yellow eyes. "You think you've won. You know nothing of what comes. The void will consume your world just as it did our home systems." Kelly stepped forward. "Maybe. But humans don't give up easily. And now we have allies." After a tense standoff, Zrok finally lowered his weapons. 18 cycles of conquest," he said quietly. "And it ends here." The battle for Earth was over. But the greater challenge was just beginning. 1 month later, Kelly stood in a new combined command center. Humans worked alongside Kralians, preparing Earth's defenses. Dr. Powell had developed new technologies with Kralian scientists. "Their knowledge combined with our creativity makes for powerful weapons," she told Kelly. Howard worked with alien engineers, redesigning ships to fight the coming threat. "They know space travel. We know how to improvise," he said with a smile. Wright and Dr. Martinez had established new communication systems that allowed humans and Kralians to work together seamlessly. Even Admiral Zrok, now a prisoner, provided valuable information about the void and its capabilities. General Russell entered the command center with Commander Vrel. They had become an effective leadership team. "Long-range scanners detect the void entering our solar system," Russell announced. "We have 3 months to prepare." Kelly looked around at the united forces. Just weeks ago, they had been enemies. Now they stood together against a common threat. "The Kralians conquered 17 worlds because those species fought alone," she said. "But humans don't just fight. We build alliances. We find common ground with former enemies. That's our real strength." Vrel nodded in agreement. "My people feared no species until we met humans. Now we learn from you." As the command center buzzed with activity, Kelly gazed at the stars visible through the large window. The void was coming, but for the first time in its existence, it would face something new. Humans and Kralians standing together. And if there was one thing the galaxy was learning, it was to never underestimate humans or those who allied with them.